Hi and welcome to the Resources Roadhouse Lockdown Lowdown series, and today I am joined by three special people in the form of the board members of Ardiden Limited. And looking left to right on the Resources Roadhouse screen, we have Pauline Gately, who's an independent non-executive director. In the middle we have Rob Longley, who's managing director and CEO, and Neil Hackett, who is chairman. Now, ladies and gentlemen, just this week, Ardiden released, had a big announcement, a nice raising of $4.5 million. Now, that's not to be sneezed at in these times, as we know, and it's quite a substantial injection into anybody's coffers. Now, one thing that did sort of catch my attention was there was two parts to the raising. The first raising was a pretty normal placement of $3.5 million. But the second phase was raising using a different strategy. Now, Neil, I think maybe you might be able to speak about this. Now, it was using some different shares in a different way to raise that extra $1 million.
Yeah, thanks, Wally. Thanks very much for having us today. We issued a controlled placement facility back in December of 2019, which is essentially a placement facility that directors can use at any time to raise capital on the market. For the first time that we're aware of, we've been able to use that controlled placement facility in conjunction with the standard institutional placement at the same price. And I'm pleased to announce that today we have also settled the funds for that controlled placement facility. So that $1 million is now in our allocations account. There's about 60 companies on the ASX that have a controlled placement facility similar to Ardiden's, but we would now be one of the first that have used it as a precedent in conjunction with the placement.
Some people might say that you've cut out your regular mum and dad investors type. Is there any sort of idea that including them later on for a share placement?
Yeah, there is. So, Wally, we've had really good, strong institutional support, and Pauline will talk to it more as well, but we felt it was relevant now. We're in the right jurisdiction, the right commodity at the right time. We really needed to have strength on our balance sheet. So we've gone to institutional shareholders predominantly for this raising.
Okay. Yeah, and so, well, Pauline, Neil was just sort of alluding to the timing factor. So quite a good time for Ardiden to partake of this particular raising at 1.2 cents a share. It's not too bad considering, let's say, 4 weeks ago you were sitting at 0.4 cents a share. So you could say you've raised at a premium.
Well, absolutely, Wally. I think that once we started to go through our corporate presentation, we saw the institutional interest that it was garnering. As a board, we decided that it would have been remiss of us, on top of the share price appreciation, for us not to take advantage of that and leverage it and do the placement. The fact that we had this institutional interest from more than one institution was certainly an opportunity that we couldn't let go. And we wanted to also, while the funds were there, boost our coffers so that will nicely underpin Rob's drill program that he's going to talk about. As we were just discussing before we started this interview, I mean, when you go out to go on a long journey, you always check to see how much fuel you've got in the tank. So this is our opportunity to do that, Wally.
Well, Rob, Pauline was just alluding to your drill program coming up at Casa McGuinness. This is a nice little earner, so to speak, to fill those coffers so that drilling program can go ahead. I'd say Casa McGuinness is going to be the main beneficiary of this particular raising, with most of the funds being earmarked for your Pickle Lake Gold project over in Canada.
Yeah, that's fair to say, Wally, and thanks for coming in and putting the three of us together as the Ardiden board. I'll make one correction. There's two special people in front of you here and one geologist that's not particularly special until he gets 1 million ounces under their belt. So I'll reserve that sort of title until we get runs on the board, which is what it's all about. That's what people are expecting now, is let's start drilling and get those achievements underway and really prove the potential of the area. So And a slight correction as well, I think $4.5 million that we've raised will do more than just CAS. It will increase our capacity at CAS this summer and moreover winter, the big winter program that we can now really go and attack with gusto. But beyond that, part of those funds will also be used once we get access to Dorothy Dobie, which is really, I mean, Pauline and I have been up late doing, and Neil a bit as well, to overseas institutions. And when they see that Dorothy Dobie stretch, they're all very familiar with the Great Bear Resources Dixie project, and their eyes just open up, like, how soon can you get there? So like a lot of projects, you start where you can, which is going to be CAS, but they see the broader picture and the land holding that we've got as being something analogous to what's happened just outside of Red Lake, Great Bear Resources.
Would you think it'd be fair to say, like, with the response you've had to the raising and the recent response to your share price movement, that maybe market watchers are starting to run the ruler over Ardiden a bit more seriously? They're sort of, Ardiden's really starting to jump on people's radar screens.
Yeah, Wally, I'll probably just talk to that. So we've actually raised at a 1.5% discount to a 10-day VWAP. So we've essentially raised at our 10-day VWAP, which is the reference price for institutions. Rob's done a fantastic job going under the radar to scoop up an enormous package of tenements in the area. We have nearly 18 different deposits and prospects, the majority of which are 100% owned. Rob can elaborate, but there's only one of our areas which is an earn-in. So we all own all of our projects bar one. That has really now started to be comprehended by the market. It's definitely comprehended by the institutional market, and I think it'll become obvious to the retail market as we go forward.
So raising this money for mainly Pickle Lake in mind, does it have any ramifications for your 3 lithium projects over in Canada?
So Wally, we've actually got 3 lithium projects in Canada and also in Northwest Ontario. And we've been looking for the last 1.5 years, when we started to pivot towards gold, we've been looking at how to exploit and get maximum value from those projects. We signed an MOU with one of our neighbours, TSX listed RockTech, and we've extended that MOU and are investigating, given the better market dynamics in the lithium space, we're now starting to investigate how we can unlock value there more seriously. But I must say that, Rob's firmly and squarely focused on drilling and progressing our gold pipeline.
So Rob, you were scheduled to kick off a drilling program around about July. There has been some delay, for want of a better term. Could you just fill us in what that delay may be and how the drilling is coming ahead?
Yeah, sure. Well, good question. I think a lot of people are asking that question at the moment. It's not so much a delay. We're still in July, so we're still pretty hopeful we're going to get drilling in July. We've got a 3,000 metre program to complete, which we can do easily within the summer autumn period, which is ahead of us. What the change has been is with COVID, the mines department have asked several companies in the area to get a tick on the box from other First Nation groups so that they can issue our permit to go and drill. A couple of other companies which are drilling in the area don't have to do that because they're on what are called patented claims. So we're just going through the process. We've got Dan Grabby, our exploration manager, working closely with the mines department in Ontario. But as much as that is an expectation, we plan to get going. To answer your question a little bit earlier before, we're in this really for the long term, and the institutions that have just come on board understand that. They didn't even ask us about when we're going to be drilling, to be honest. They understand these things take time. And even if you look at someone like Bellevue and go back and follow Drake, there's usually 1 or 2 years of really hard slog where you don't get much appreciation before you start to come on the radar and make those leaps and bounds. So we're not overly stressed by the process. It is Canada, it's what you got to go through. We're confident that we'll still be drilling in July, and we'll keep the market informed as soon as we get that permit to drill.
And we do have a binding MOU with the First Nations.
Yeah, the First Nations are almost asking us, why are you asking us again? And it's because the mines department, not anything else, because of COVID, is we want you to tick another box to make sure they're all satisfied that you're not going to interfere with their own COVID management strategies. So that's fine. That's what we're going to go through, and that's what we'll do to make sure that we've got a long-term social licence to operate that stands well for the years to come.
Yeah, and I think people are very interested in the fact that you are drilling, but they'll also be even more interested once the drill bit delivers and tells you what it is you're actually drilling in there. So that's the news everybody will be waiting for.